Hey guys, Tony Denaro here. Welcome back to the channel. Next week on Thursday, August 4th, after the market closes, AMC is going to report earnings, and I know a lot of you are really curious. What is that number going to be in terms of revenue and earnings per share? Is AMC going to have a profitable quarter? Is the earnings per share going to be in the positive or in the negative? Let's go through my calculations, and I'm going to give you my estimates for what we're going to hear next week. I have a model that I've developed where I take all of the numbers from box office and previous quarters and extrapolate and predict what the revenues and the earnings per share are going to be. I know you're probably saying, why do I care what this guy thinks? How good could his model possibly be? There's plenty of analysts that are giving us numbers, and we think Top Gun Maverick did great, so it's got to be a blowout quarter. I did do a video in May last year, right before the earnings came out, and I predicted, based on the model, that AMC's revenue would come in at $746 million and that the earnings per share would come in at minus 43 cents. How did that stack up to reality? The actual numbers came in at $785 million in revenue. I was about 5% off on that. And the earnings per share came in a little worse than I expected at minus 52 cents with a 17% error rate. The good thing about this model is that with every quarter and analyzing the financial statements, I'm able to refine it to try and get things a little bit more accurate for the next quarter's predictions. The Q2 domestic box office numbers came in at $2.3 billion, continuing that acceleration back to the 2018 and 2019 levels. The movie industry and AMC are on a great trajectory to recover back to numbers of 2018 and 2019, those pre-COVID numbers that we were used to seeing. Bearing in mind those box office numbers that we just went through, I know you guys are wanting to know, is there a possibility that we could have a profitable quarter in Q2? Could the earnings per share be greater than zero? Let's do a quick recap of the past couple quarters. The domestic box office for Q4 came in at $2.06 billion, and that resulted in an earnings per share for AMC of negative 26 cents. Q1 2022, Q1 always being a slower quarter, the domestic box office numbers were a little bit lower, $1.3 billion. The net to AMC was a EPS of negative 52 cents. And now we are faced with Q2 domestic box office numbers coming in at $2.3 billion. So the big question is, how is that going to translate into earnings per share? And I want you to note the very close similarity between the Q4 $2.06 billion domestic box office and the Q2 domestic box office of $2.3 billion. Yes, I'm just using domestic box office because that is what I use for my model. The total box office worldwide is much higher than these numbers. So let's get into those predictions. And we're going to start off by looking at what are the experts, what are the analysts saying that AMC is going to do for Q2 in terms of earnings per share. And I looked at 6 different sites to get the various analyst opinion: Barron's, MarketBeat, Yahoo Finance, Zacks, etc. All of these different entities have decades-long investment research experience and many experts providing them this information. And you can see the spread here. This is the average earnings per share estimate from each website, and the best one is negative 19 cents. And the worst from Zacks is negative 26 cents. Now, there is a greater range even than that. These are the average numbers that these different sites are providing as their estimate. Now, it's not so simple as just looking at box office numbers and creating a guess on revenue and earnings per share. You do need to dig into the financial statements, and that I did to make sure that my model was as accurate as it possibly could be. There are a couple line items that I'm going to go over with you at a high level just so you understand the due diligence. Let's get right into it. The Q4 2021 income statement had a one-time charge and impairment of long-lived assets. That was a negative $77 million to the income of AMC in Q4. And when you're analyzing the Q4 numbers and earnings per share, you need to keep that in mind because that number will not carry forward into subsequent quarters. Next, when we go into the Q1 2022 income statement, there's an interesting one that you're going to want to know about. We're going to talk about this one for a couple seconds extra. It has to do with Highcroft Mining. AMC realized $63.4 million in investment income from their investment in Highcroft Mining in Q1 of 2022. I know it's in parentheses here. You might think it's a negative, but that is because it is in the expense section. This is actually a positive to AMC for Q1 2022. So where does that number come from? It is basically a fair value adjustment based on AMC's investment into Highcroft Mining and the stock price of Highcroft Mining at the last day of the quarter. I know you're probably asking yourself, why is he talking about Highcroft Mining when we're discussing AMC earnings? Remember, AMC did spend some money to buy both common stock and warrants in Highcroft Mining. And there is a fair value measurement of that investment that transfers over to the income statement of AMC, whether it's a positive or negative. You can see right here, we have the investment in Highcroft Mining Holding Corp warrants and the investment in Highcroft Mining Holding Corporation. That is for the common stock shares that AMC owns. AMC did purchase 23.4 million shares each of both the common stock and the warrants. AMC uses the equity method to determine the fair value measurement of its investment in Highcroft, and you can read right here in the middle of this slide that that is dependent on the Highcroft stock price at the end of the quarter. Why does that matter? Well, because at the end of March 31st, 2022, Highcroft was valued at $2.30 per share. At the end of Q2, June 30th, 2022, Highcroft was valued at $1.10 per share. So that $2.30 price for Highcroft stock at the end of March gave us a $63.4 million investment income in Q1. And according to my calculations and accounting, if it is correct, and of course I reserve the right to have made an error. I'm not a CPA, but I did the best that I could in calculating this, and I did consult with the CPA. The Highcroft price at the end of June being $1.10 is probably going to give us a loss on the income statement of $31.1 million. I anxiously await the earnings from AMC and to get a look at that income statement to see if I got that correct. Stay tuned and we'll find out together. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. What do I think the revenue is going to be for AMC for Q2, and what is the earnings per share going to be? First, we're going to talk about if we didn't have that $31 million loss on the income statement from Highcroft Mining. And regardless of that, the revenue, I think, is going to come in at $1.35 billion for AMC for the quarter. Earnings per share, if we didn't have Highcroft in the equation, would have been negative 13 cents, a very healthy increase from previous quarters. But since we have to factor Highcroft Mining and the decline in the stock price from $2.30 to $1.10, I think that the earnings per share for AMC is going to come in at negative 19 cents per share. Looking back at the last two quarters in 2020, negative 19 cents is a fantastic number as AMC continues to climb out of the hole from the pandemic and get back to 2018 and 2019 numbers. We are going to need to see domestic box office numbers per quarter above 3 billion, maybe above 3.3 billion in order for AMC to get to a zero or positive earnings per share. We might even get that in Q3. Here it is, the first month in July, and we're already at $1 billion. If we don't get it in Q3 or Q4, 2023 is just around the corner. 1.35 billion and earnings per share of negative 19 cents. That is my estimate. Am I going to be right? How do I stack up against the experts? Again, you have the range here of negative 19 cents from Yahoo, which happens to agree with my model, all the way down to Zacks, which thinks it's going to be negative 26 cents per share. Who is going to be right? What do you guys think? Am I all washed up? Do I have this completely wrong? Drop me a comment down below and let me know what you think AMC is going to do on Thursday. I want to hear from you. If you got value out of today's presentation, please hit that like button. I am Tony Denaro. I want to thank you for watching. This is your home for seasoned and reasoned investment discussion about your favorite stocks. Never any clickbait. I keep it real for you, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. I hope to see you on a future live stream where I answer your questions on stocks, options, and crypto. Never any super chats required. If this is your first time here, please buy and hold that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next video.
That I'm afraid that I don't break. I heard you question